In the name of Allah, the most merciful, mighty and gracious to all. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and welcome to the class of Business Research Methods. Dear students, today we are going to discuss the 20th lecture of the course, and here again we are with the concept of sampling. Students, if you remember, in the last lesson, in the last lecture, we discussed about the statistics, then we discussed about the types of statistics, and we also discussed about the sample population, sample size and population size. So again a bit more about the sampling, and here in this lecture we will discuss about the sampling and types of sampling. Now more about the sampling, that what the sampling is. So inshallah, in this lecture we are further going to study that what are the different methods or what are the different types of sampling. Already we have discussed these things, that sampling is a process that where the members are to be taken out of the population. This technique is simply known as a sampling technique. Now there are few terminologies relevant to sampling. First I would like to explain those terminologies, and then inshallah we will move to the next concentrations. Number one, that is target population or universe. What is target population? Simply stated, the population to which the investigator wants to generalize the results. The aggregate population, the selected population, the overall population, that is simply known as your target population. Then after that we have sampling unit. What is sampling unit? The smallest unit, element, subject from which sample can be selected, that is simply known as your sampling unit. Like for example, the tiny part here from which we can select our sample is known as our sampling unit. And then we have a proper framing list from where we have to take these samples. Such is known as your sampling frame. Like for example, a telephone directory, like for example the 5-star hotel list, and for example the list of respondents or the students, that is simply known as your sampling list. Like take the example of Salam University. Salam University has all the data relevant to the students, is it? The Sharia student, the law student, Dina Ilawa the BBA student, the IT student, definitely Salam University sarab mukammal your list proti. That list is simply known as your sampling frame. Inshallah, hope a bit idea will be clear. Later on inshallah I will discuss these concepts into detail. Misalnya nurum clear koma. फिलहाल दूर है चितासो सिर्फ आइडिया जोड़ शु. You can your picture में add करे दे. It will make your more idea clear about the sample unit and the target population. The shaded area, the green shaded area, that is known as your target population, is it? Now out of the shaded green area we have some yellow area. The yellow area that is simply known as your sample unit. The green area, that is your target population. Target population ke chikam selected unit see, that is known as your sample unit. And then the sample unit na chikam munga sub samples raubasu ya select ko, that is simply known as your sample. The example sir may further explain kar inshallah next slide ke, it will make your idea more clear. Look at here at this slide. Gura, do you want to generalize to? Suppose what is theoretical population? Theoretical population, suppose all universities in Afghanistan, overall Afghanistan rawali. Suppose that you research that you study, is it? They study the para, you have to for example study the universities of Afghanistan. Overall Afghanistan university rawali, is it? Now the overall Afghanistan university, that is simply known as your theoretical population. Difficult to study. Like breakdown. We are going to break it down. The overall population study that is impossible. We are going to break down the overall population. Sample unit overall sample. Now what we are doing in the next phase, what we are doing, we are specifying it. Overall Afghanistan sirf Kabul. It means all universities in Kabul. what population can you get access to? Overall Afghanistan study hote ragrana. Now what happened? Mung sirf or sirf Kabul target karo. Ab when we have specified it, limited it clear up to Kabul, simply that is known as your target population or it is known as your study population. Lekin us hum clear that is not clear. We have to further broken it down. Now munga wayu che aya list of Kabul universities, मतलब देखिए प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज हम स्टडी देखिए गवर्नमेंट यूनिवर्सिटीज हम रातलेशी. अब व्हाट हैपन काबुल की हम देर जात यूनिवर्सिटी दी नमुंग या हो कोशिश करू च प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी लिस्ट रवालू या मुंगा फॉर एग्जांपल गवर्नमेंट यूनिवर्सिटी लिस्ट रवालू. दैट बिकम द लिस्ट ऑफ काबुल यूनिवर्सिटीज. उस दा कम स्पेसिफिकेशन दे अबाउट द पॉपुलेशन दैट इज नोन एज योर सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम. मुख्तलिफ मुंगसरा यूनिवर्सिटी की देशी प्राइवेट हम और गवर्नमेंट हम. नाउ स्टिल इट इज अनस्पेसिफाइड. नाउ जो तासु दवायामा कि सिर्फ काबुल के 3 प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी लिस्ट वाला या सिर्फ 3 गवर्नमेंट यूनिवर्सिटी लिस्ट वाला. अब नाउ दैट इज स्पेसिफाइड टारगेट, is it? And this specified target is simply known as the sample. So that is the overall breakdown of your population. Chesanga munga your target population, your theoretical population, na target population, the target population na sampling frame ta, and sampling frame na at the last clear munga khapal sample selection tarashu. The whole process is known as your sampling breakdown process. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. Now we move to the next slide, and that is why sample. Why we study samples? What is the reason? Well, very common kone khabar ada shuru ke master huए in the last slide we have discussed chukura overall population, theoretical population या aggregate या target population study का world, that is very much difficult. So what we have to do? We have to definite study clear a short study. We have to convert our study clear into a short study. So therefore we need some small shots, and these small shots are simply known as your samples. Deta munga wayu sample. No zaka the small shots de para we need samples. No gura why now sample? Munga wal study ko yo awal da basic reason ne chama ta so ta che aggregate study ko that is difficult. No mung so ku mung broken down into small pieces, and the small pieces are simply known as sample. Us get information about the large population. How? Because lower cost, yo ho masraf pe kam rashi, more accuracy of results. कोशिश करूँ कि small pieces चे कम दे तामु गडीर easily study कवले शू. लगा ज़े तासु तवाय मा for example you have to study 5,000 people at a time. अब 5,000 people at a time and their study, that becomes very difficult. लेकिन suppose if we are broken down into 100 let's suppose pieces, 100 samples. So now as compared to 5,000 and for example 100, so 100 it a bit easy clear in the study as compared to 5,000. Next, high speed of data collection. Very simple. Yo khuda da che deke small pieces rashi data or quote shi no deke data collection che da hum dera asan shi. Availability of population elements dam laga asan shi. Less field time consuming pake kam de, and the last is when it's impossible to study the whole population as I told you. So therefore we study the sample. Now the next slide, and that is about the sampling. Already I have discussed sampling, that what is sampling. That sampling simply means the method of selecting sampling units from sampling frame is known as sampling. And what is sample size? Initially when I started the lecture I told you that what is sample size. A sample size set away pura sample size mungsara your population size hai or your mungsara sample size hai. Population size set away pura population size hamesha n sara denote ki. That is representation, its representation is by through M, capital N sara. What does it mean? It means che kala hum taso population ke 16 elements include kari, is it? Whatever the elements included in your population for the study, that is simply known as your population size. Representation is capital N. And what is sample size? Sample size simply means once you are able to pick the sample, last I'm talking about, so then the sample will contain some members. Seshwa da chikam members their size chikam their quantity chikamada, that is known as your sample size, and its representation is by small m. Inshallah hope a bit idea will be clear. Now we move to the next slide, and here now we will move to the next slide, that is what is good sample. Simply stated, यो sample हाँ qualities कम की देशी. What are the different characteristics or qualities or traits of a good sample? या मुझे संग विले शू कि this sample which I have selected that is a good sample. There are so many traits. लेकिन कम ची statistical point of view सरा importantly I have mentioned here. That is number 1 representation, second appropriate size, third the unbiased, and the fourth the randomness. अब now one the sample must be representative of the population. Up what does it mean representation of the population? Look at here. Representation means chikam hum sasu for example study kawal wadi. Let's suppose for example I want to study the doctors, the behavior of the doctors. Up for this I have to select doctors, is it? And then what type of behavior I want to study. Suppose cognitive behavior study kawal wadama. Yeah, for example, here the learning study behavior kaval wadama, attitude study kaval wadama. Whatever the doctors I have selected, either clear I am really representing clear the sample with relevant to those doctors or not. Matlab simple alfaz ki chekam doctoran ma study kari di, for example ya select kari di aya da chekam doctoran de the real representation kai the population or na kai. Simple as that. In other words, I want to study the good students, the qualities of a good student. Up quality of the good students, I come students ma select kari di. No, I waki hi ahui matlab aga good di. मतलब दा से स्टूडेंटान चे कम 80% या प्लस 80% फॉर एग्जांपल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स मार्क्स लरी वगैरह आया दा कम चे सिलेक्शन मार्क करे दे इज इट द रियल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ माय थ्योरेटिकल फॉर एग्जांपल कॉन्सेप्ट और नॉट. दैट इज सिंपली नोन एज द रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन. कि द सैंपल इज द रियल रिप्रेजेंटेशन क्लियर ऑफ योर पॉपुलेशन. नेक्स्ट वी हैव दैट इज appropriately sized. यो खुदा दा गुरे सिंपल कोने खबर है size chide by the appropriate usi. Now what does it mean? Appropriately sized. Appropriately sized simply means the larger the better. मतलब सूरज से स्टाफ sample size से वाकी सही हुआ. So that it means that you are going to the real picture. सूरा sample size से वाकीगी it means the movement चे कम दे अगर population तरफ तक से वाकीगी. नो चे sample size से वाकीगी it means chance of error चे कम दे आहम कमीगी. Let's suppose the most population दे for example 100 people. उस 100 people के जिस सिर्फ 10 हल को study करूँगा. It means 90% of the people I am going to escape from my study. No, उसकी देशी 90% of the people चिदे अवोई views अवोई response चिदे 10% न जुदाई. It means 10% चिकम दे that is not the real representation. हाँ उस 10 ना रो मुंगा for example 30% तराशु 30 खलक select को. अब it means that we are increasing the size. जे size सूरज से वाकीगी it means we will get the more picture. So therefore that way जे larger the selection clear sizes the larger will be, for example the accuracy will be in the data as well. That is known as the appropriately sized. Second is unbiased. Unbiased matlab that for example that there must be a fair sample or fairness in the sample. Yo insaf pakar de sample ke like suppose sangam zata sto for example che ze gurama che aya male studentan for example date tak radi ka female studentan date tak radi. Let's suppose I want to study that either male students are more, for example, good or female students are more good. Up male or female by takriban when I am going to select the students, there should be a proportionate clear among the students. मतलब दास ही नहीं जैसे सिर्फ 10 male student आन रवालमा और 40 female student आन रवालमा. सही हुआ? It means that is inappropriate. That is an unbiased. या for example the male study कोमा लेकिन male study के female student आन सेवा दी. या for example in the student study female students are less clear as compared to male or male are more as compared to for example female. It means that is an unbiasedness of the sample. सही हुआ? Next is the randomness. अब what is randomness? Already we have discussed randomness. जो randomness से तो वही मतलब already clear करे थे. पूरा randomness simply मतलब दारे सादा अल्फाज के कि हर यो member या हर यो subject या हर यो element बाइट अगे probability चिदे आगा सीमी. Like suppose I have 10 students. Is it? Up 10 students, har your student clear the probability 1 by 10 day. Because out of the 10 clear every student is a single. So each student has clear a probability 1 by 10. No kalachi har your student probability 1 by 10 day, it means their selection chance or the chances are equal of being upon selection. So that is simply known as randomness. hope inshallah bit idea will be clear. No de tarike sara munga will issue che kala yo sample is the representative, is appropriately sized, is unbiased and clear, is full of randomness, so simply we can say that the sample is a good sample. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. Now we move to the next slide, and that is the types of sampling. Already we have discussed che sampling set away sampling aga process de che kam ke munga sample unit select ko. There are two types of sampling. One is known as probability sampling and another is known as non-probability sampling. Well, first let me explain the idea of probability or non-probability ke what is the major difference. Well, probability sampling. Probability sampling, by the name it is called probability, the chance. That sampling where the chance of selection clear of all the subjects, members, elements is same. Sexual, मतलब randomness पके डेर ज़्यादा थे. Haphazardly we cannot. That's नहीं चुका बोले कि यो member probability चिकम दे आगा यो दा और बल member चिकम दे आगे probability चिकम दा बला दा. No, not at all. Sexual. So that is a the next is non-probability method. By the name it is clear non-probability. It means non-chance, that where the member clear chances of occurrence are not equal, not same, not alike. Such probability is known as non-probability. Us now proper bookish definition so first probability sample. Probability sample so different ma khata sula awal journal da gaw khoda lekin da gura da tasura proper chikam de da khashwidi definition di. A method of sampling that uses of a random selection so that all units, cases, members, subjects in the population have an equal probability chance of being chosen. Same case yasanga master probability QA. And non-probability sample doesn't involve randomness selection and methods are not based on the rationale of probability theory. Matlab equal chances zaruri pake nashtari. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. Now sangache, as I told you, sampling dwara kam di. Yo probability sampling de or your non-probability sampling de. Thus we have the further categories, the further types under probability sampling and under non-probability sampling. Next slide ke chikam de that whole mention shavidi. Here look at here the probability sampling, the random sampling. The probability sampling is furtherly divided into subtypes. First is known as simple random sampling. Deta S sampling hum hui. Next is systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, and next is cluster sampling. Then we have non-probability samples, yeah, non-probability sampling. Us non-probability sampling ke first we have the convenience sampling, yeah, the convenience samples, purposive sampling, yeah, sometimes it is known as judgmental sampling, yeah, judgment sampling. Next is quota sampling, and the last not the least is the snowball sampling. Next we are going to discuss each type of sampling in detail. Let's start from the first, that is the probability sampling. And under the probability sampling we are going to study the first, that is the simple random sampling. By the name it is clear, simple random sampling. Now let's start from the first, the simple random sampling. Okay. Simple random sampling is simply applicable when population is small, homogeneous and readily available. First of all, let me explain what is simple random sampling. Simple random sampling days. By the name it is clear, simple, random and sampling. Matlab that sampling that where units have clear the same probability या chance of selection. Simply, all subsets of the frame are given an equal probability. Each element of the frame thus has an equal probability of selection. A table of random number or lottery system is the common example of this. Like a single suppose Zita 15 students on numuna chekam de agapa yo page manuali ke your quote on a tag manuali ke. That tag chede that take tasu fold this tag and shuffle, for example, all these tags, let's suppose into a bucket, yeah, into a basket. Mix it up, tool shuffle. Now select a single one. Yo chide piece of paper chekam mane num likale de data so bucket na select kai. Ab out of 15 you have selected a single a tag, the single piece of paper. Us da kam chi single piece ra gale de probability se da de probability 1 by 15 da. उस चे वापस तासो के दे नेक्स्ट सिलेक्ट कोई again clear it has clear the second one also will have the same probability that is 1 by 15. It means such type of lottery system or such type of random, for example numbering system, is the common example or common type of simple random sampling. Then to your point there that applicable when population is small the common day and homogeneous. What does it mean homogeneous? Homogeneous means same, तकरीबन identical. Like for example select the students, a group of students 15 students your group तासो select के suppose in general example उस दा tool चे दे के तकरीबन यो categorization खलकी यो categorization खलक मतलब दा दे tool आसी students तासो रवाले चिकम 80 plus marks आखस्ती. It means that is a homogeneous group. Why? Because homogeneous चीज़ें आगा internally चीज़ें same दे. नुचे हर यो homogeneous group के member, element, case, subject, probability same राशि सही बच्चे या selection chance चिकम दे आगा same ही. Such method is simply known as simple random sampling technique. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. तायो example सर मैं तशरीह करे inshallah it will make your idea clear. There are total, that's numerary, there are total 48 names, some name of the people. उसको रद्दा चे कम highlighted खलक दे पर 20th माने Helen H. No Helen H chance सूरा दे, Helen H सिर्फ यौ दे, यौ out of 48 is it? So Helen chance सूरा दे, Helen chance दे 1 by 48. दिना अलावा for example Ellen M दे, उस Ellen M चे कम दे दा हम यौ नफर दे, दीदी chance सूरा दे 1 by 48. उस 32 माने चे कम कस दे for example at Lini M, the chance hum 1 by 48. It means every member, every element in your population has the equal chance of being selected. Such method is known as simple random sampling. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. Now the next type, which is known as systematic sampling. Like with the systematic sampling discuss kukura. Next day we have systematic sampling. If you notice, systematic sampling. Systematic by the name it is clear, according to a system, according to a method, according to a formula, according to an equation. Simply, so matlab that sampling, that where we select the samples according to a technique, according to a formula, according to a system. Suppose the example look at here. There are 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 people. I have 8 people. Har third number mane che kam kach raji. At every third, for example, location, whatever the person you have to select the third one person in your whole data. Now look at here. This one is circle. I have to select this person. After 1 2 3 again at the third place I have to select this person. After that we have 1 second, and here I will have the next third person. It means every time among my whole population data I have to select the third one personality. It means that is a system, because every time I am selecting the third one person out of the whole population. Such is known as your systematic sampling, and the probability will again remain same, because I have first categorized these 3 and its probability is 1 by 3. Its probability is 1 by 3. The next one probability is be 1 by 3. So simply stated, that is known as systematic sampling. Hope inshallah idea will be clear. Now in the next The next is convenience sampling. Convenience sampling, simply stated, by the name it is clear, convenience sampling. صحیح شو description تاسو خپل study وکړئ زه تاسو یو idea درکوم چې convenience sampling څه ته وایي. convenience mean at ease. هغه sampling چې ډېر په اسانه تاسو له available شي. I would like to give an example. For example, زه یو روډ باندې یو سروي کوم یا انټرویو اخلم خلکونه about the public یا about the government. صحیح شو. اوس let's suppose we have 4 roads. څلور روډونه دي موږ سره. روډ نمبر 1 باندې چې څوره خلک دي I don't know صحیح شو دې باندې څوره خلک دي. صحیح شو. لیکن let's suppose in 1 hour or initially صحیح شو in the day shift زه چې څوره خلکونه انټرویو عالمه هغوی probability would definitely differently in the evening shift. صحیح شو. داسې کې فور ایگزامپل سیکنډ روډ. اب سیکنډ روډ کې فرست آورز کې چې کم خلکونه دغه اخلمه انټرویو اخلمه صحیح شو هغوی probability would definitely differently as compared to road second یا road third. That is known as simply convenience sampling. Why it is called convenience sampling? Because every time when I am selecting the people for interview, every time their probability will be different. کی دیشي شروع کې چې روډ 1 باندې کم خلک فور ایگزامپل انټرویو کړی دي هغوی probability each individual probability 1 by for example 3000 دي. یو سات پس چې دوباره یو کس نه انټرویو اخلمه هغه probability کې دی شي 1 by 2500 شي 1 by 2000 شي یا 1 by 4000 شي. صحیح شو. So every time upon selection of each individual the probability is getting varied. That is known as convenience sampling, non probability convenience sampling. او هر هغه نفر چې ماته ډیر په اسانه باندې مطلب مخې له چې کوم راځي زه انټرویو کوم صحیح شو simply that is known as convenience sampling. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. Next is known as judgmental sampling. Judgmental sampling or sometimes it is known as purposive sampling. अब what does it mean? ګوره دا هغه sampling دی چې کوم په expert خلکو judgment باندې کیږي یا هغه فور ایگزامپل یو خاص مقصد لپاره کیږي. Suppose I would like to give you an example. مونږ یو ډیبیټ کول غواړو any other university سره. صحیح شو. We want to for example start a debate program of our students with any of the another university students. Suppose top management say to me that Mr. Adil, you have to select the students for us upon your judgment. Us zakura zabi before tarashama and then I have for example I pinpoint those students, I select those students which I know that they have the capabilities to demonstrate in front of the for example audience. It means when I'm going to select the students, this selection of the student is upon my expertise, is upon my judgment, because I know these are my students, I know their caliber, is it? So such selection is based upon the experiences of the expert people. So such is known as your judgmental sampling. Kideshi yo class na 1 by 4 rashi, bal class na for example 3 by 10 rashi, so different. Sexually yeah 1 by 10 rashi. So that is simply known as your judgmental sampling. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. Now the quota sampling. What is quota sampling? Simply stated, quota sampling quota sampling is that sampling that where first we make the mutually exclusive groups. What is mutually exclusive groups? Mutually exclusive groups already mutually exclusive groups simply means that nothing in common. Two different groups. Like I said, yo group with the male jod karo, yo the female jod karo. Us male or female character wise da yo balna juda di. It means two mutually exclusive thing. Say shwa. Like I said, for example, toss a coin. No yo head rashi, yo tail rashi. No head zan la yo aspect, tail zan la yo aspect. They common characteristics icham nashtade. Say shwa. These are known as mutually exclusive. No quota sampling ke first we make the mutually exclusive groups. And then according to those we have to restrict clear our sampling, and that restriction is simply known as the quota sampling. For example, I have some 200 females and 300 males. Now I have to restrict clear between the age of 45 and 50. Simply stated, such sampling is known as quota sampling. Quota sampling I have mentioned some examples here. It will make your idea more clear. Let's suppose your population that is a diverse population. उस diverse population के सिर्फ और सिर्फ your quota fees above or more than 50%. For example, age na चकम खलक दी 50 age na चकम ज़्यादा खलक दी, I have to select those, and that is restricted. So that is simply known as your quota sampling. या देना इलावा अलावा लेट सपोज आई हैव अ पॉपुलेशन दे पॉपुलेशन के 70% मा सरा वाइट खलक दी जे कम के मेल उमश्ता कम के फीमेल उमश्ता सही शुरा और 30% जे कम दे मा सरा ब्लैक खलक दी सही शुरा द ओवरऑल पॉपुलेशन के उस वायमा आई हैव टू सिलेक्ट द पीपल आई हैव टू सिलेक्ट 50% मेल एंड आई हैव टू सिलेक्ट फॉर एग्जांपल 50% फीमेल सही हुआ उस मेल के हम 50% वाइट पकार दी 50% ब्लैक पकार दी पकार दी सही हुआ मेल पकार दी तो पूरा दा दिस्ता सो मेल अब मेल के 50% वाइट थी 50% ब्लैक थी सही हुआ एंड सेम इन द फीमेल 50% फीमेल चिकम दे अगा ब्लैक दी एंड 50% फीमेल चिकम दे अगा वाइट थी सच रिस्ट्रिक्शन इज नोन एज योर quota sampling wali the 50% white and 50% black out of the total population that is a kind of restriction de tamunga wayu the 50% chikam de male or 50% chikam female de ya 50% male ke white or 50% female ke for example white or 50% male ke black or 50% female ke black that is simply known as the quota. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. The last but not the least, that is snowball sampling. Pura snowball sampling is simply known as your network sampling. If you notice on this example, there is a network among the people, among the dots. Such is known as your snowball sampling. Suppose here zama your student the, yeah, for example zama your student the agita so problem the statistics ke agawai chi sarji the problem mungi para hal ka up to some extent I have definitely helped him or her out. Next chite zapina poigama I have referred to him or her to my next clear friend. Here is my next friend. उस next friend इची help out कई सही शुरा no a next friend further जो कसानो दे पा रहे extend की सही शुरा ची देना help वाला. Same is the case सही शुरा there is a network among the people and such network is known as your snowball sampling. सही शुरा that was the last type of your sampling. Hope inshallah a bit idea will be clear. Thank you so much.